threaten the real?
Okay, whenever I think of simulations, I think of like reality TV and magazines and how they can make us like think that people are, I don't know, more beautiful than they really are. And so it makes us forget that like we are beautiful, and so we just like put makeup on and try to look like that person like, in a magazine or TV show. And I agree with you on that, but like I think about like TV shows like mostly MTV just because their shows are crazy, but like 16 and Pregnant and like Jersey Shore, they make it like seem okay for like kids our age, like yeah, it's okay to go out and drink and like get pregnant and like there's nothing wrong with that, and it kind of like changes your views and like morals in life, but I think they like create a new reality that contradicts like the true reality that we see or that we don't see. I don't know, it's confusing.
I think I understand what you're saying with that. Like you said, with those shows, it makes people think it's okay. And being, I guess, our age, we're so impressionable that instead of realizing like, okay, you shouldn't go out and do this. Like you were raised differently. You do the exact opposite and say, okay, I'm going to go try this, and then like saying. You keep trying something. You keep trying something like, okay, that wasn't so bad. Then you do it again until it becomes a habit. So, which isn't right. It's kind of because you get the impression that what you're doing is okay, and it's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's what you. It's the exact opposite of what you should do.
How does that threaten reality? It threatens morality.
Mm-hmm.
How does that threaten reality?
How does it threaten reality?
Mm-hmm.
Because actions that people wouldn't ordinarily do in reality, that by seeing these different shows, I said they do think it's okay. So instead of just fantasizing about it, they will commit to it and make their actions real.
Trey, Jason, Kristen?
I definitely think simulations threaten their reality because, like, if you look at shows like Jack, I mean, I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about, and they do just stupid stuff. They just do a bunch of stupid stuff, but they probably have trained professionals by it in case something happens, and then you see. Like, you see videos on the internet of people doing stupid stuff like that all the time, just, like, trying to be funny or see if they can be tough or stuff like that, but they don't have anybody there to watch them, and if they get hurt, something bad can happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I know sometimes, there's a lot of YouTube videos that are hoaxes and stuff like that, so it threatens reality because it can, convince people that some things that are possible aren't possible. It threatens real because they think that, oh, I saw this on the internet, it's real, but it's not.
And I think a lot of today's technology helps facilitate that a lot more than it did in the past. Now we have like Facebook, internet, YouTube, reality TV shows that all facilitate like images that aren't real, they're simulations. And like the in the allegory where the like puppet master is controlling the shadows, the people behind all those reality TV shows and Facebook are able to present those simulations to us, and it really does threaten our reality because, like on Facebook, that's our perception of what a friend is. A friend is someone that likes your statuses and posts pictures and comments and stuff, and when in reality, a true friend is much more than that. And so simulations do threaten the real through technology.
I think simulations threaten the real because have them both at the same time. Like on one part you have simulation, and on one part you have reality. And you can't really have both at the same time. I mean, we've all heard or even used the phrase, and then reality set in. You know, it's kind of like when you have a simulation, eventually reality is going to catch up with that. Like, for example, my mom and I, believe it or not, watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Just going to get that out in the open. I love it. But, no, it's a great show. But any of the stars on that show, like I've seen them on talk shows and everything, and every single one of them say that on that show, the producers just set it up to make it look like they have this different character than who they really are, or the situation was different than how it's portrayed on the television show. And actually recently that caught up with one of the characters. There was a couple on there that were kind of in the midst of separation, and her I guess husband, ex-husband, whatever, he ended up killing himself because he felt like the show had done so much damage to his real life and things like that. And so that's a point where reality set in, where the simulation just kind of faded away because reality is always going to pull through. So that's why I think simulation's definitely.
I think maybe what you just said was a little contradictory, so I'm going to ask you for clarification.
Yeah.
You said simulations threaten the real, but reality always sets in. If reality always sets in, then how will a simulation threaten it?
Because then you won't be prepared for when it sets in.
Oh, so it threatens your perception of the real. It's
Right.
not that it threatens the real's existence. It threatens your perception of it and makes you not prepared for it. I see. Thank you for the clarification.
So I'm not talking about my outside source. It's called Reality, What Does It Mean? And it's a psychological paper by Lewis W. Brandt and Wolfgang Metzger. And Metzger is a psychologist, and he believes in or he doesn't believe in but he is a Gestaltian psychologist, and Gestalt is where like perception is more than the parts of the whole, or more of the sum of the parts. And he, in this paper, he and Brandt identify the parts of what is real, and things that we would count as simulations are one type of reality, but we don't perceive them as such. Like, they exist, so they are real, but what they do to the reality that we perceive and we feel and we experience is that they kind of blur the lines between the two. And so if we have, the two give an example of a psychological experiment conducted by Masco and Brooks in 1961, where a patient was put in a room and told that they were talking to a therapist on the other side of a wall, and really it was just a recording, but the patient talked to it and established a relationship with the video recording and felt like it had, like the person had really, really improved. And there was a lot of like progress done through that, and the whole time in all the sessions it was always a recorder and the person never knew. So that's a simulation that was interpreted as reality by a person. So while like a simulation is a form of reality, it threatens what we perceive and what we understand as reality, and it gets us to the point where we don't understand what is real in the experience wise.
Can I ask about that experiment? The patient felt like the patient had improved
Oh yeah.
through the course of this supposed therapy?
The patient had, well, I mean, he knew he was in an experiment, but he didn't know what the experiment was.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't know what part of it they were testing.
Mm-hmm.
And in his reports, he talked about how, or he or she, because I'm not sure,
Mm-hmm.
the patient talked about how he or she felt that he or she was improving greatly.
Emotionally, in terms
Yes.
of the therapy was working.
Yeah, it's kind of like the placebo effect.
Right.
So
Right.
those are simulations.
I kind of took a different approach to it. I kind of went biblical with it. But like you were saying, how men control, or not men, but like people controlled that tape recording, and it was a simulation. I found a verse in Isaiah, and it says, the Lord says, these people come near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship of me is made up only of the rules taught by men. And I thought about how
Plato's allegory in the shadows in the cave, like John David said, with the puppet masters. They're all controlled, and like worship, like they're saying here, is it's being controlled. It's not being it's not true, and it's not coming from their hearts. It's not. It's made up by rules taught by men. It's only what people are being expected to do, and they're not. Their faith is being simulated. It's not true faith. It's not reality.
And does that threaten real faith?
Yes.
Alright, well, we talked about like how does simulations threaten reality. What I thought mainly was that like on MTV and when they like on the Jersey Shore when they go out and party and drink and they're not upstanding moral citizens like they should be and like do good things. To me, it seemed like simulations threaten reality because kind of it can replace what we think is right. Like it replaces our reality with the simulation. So I guess our reality is hurt because like we start to take on the characteristics of the simulation.
Which is sort of like what Michael just said.
And I bet the stars of Jersey Shore and stuff are affected by the simulation too, because I know like one of the stars on there has been repeatedly parking in handicapped places and has gotten thousands of dollars of fines, but because on this show he can kind of cut loose and do whatever he wants, now in reality he thinks he can park in handicapped places and get away with it. So it probably has, I mean, obviously it does have like the simulation of the reality show itself might make the star think that it is their reality, what they see, you know, when they're recording the TV show, that everything that's really produced is now their life. And so on a show where you can do whatever you want, you might come into reality and try to do whatever you want and it doesn't really work out.
But is that because of the show or because of like the accolades received for being a part of a television program? Because stars doing whatever they wanted has been around as long as there have been stars.
No, I would say it's both. It's a factor of both, because if, you know, it's certain kind of things that they do on the show, like I said, on the show Jersey Shore, I've watched it a few times, they just kind of run around, do whatever they want, and there are tons of stars who don't just run around and do whatever they want because they're stars, but I guess the stars of that show specifically feel like they have the right to do that because that's pretty much what they do for a living. And it might blur the lines between, you know, this is the TV show and this is your real life.
That brings up a point, if I could ask this question. What is the difference between a reality television star and a dramatic, so, you know, like an actor or an actress?